Hello, you wonderful individual. If you're a new listener, you are most welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. I'm delighted to have you either way. Now, I'm really excited about this week's conversation. I had a lovely chat with Harry Waters from Renewable English. His passion for sustainability and all things environmental puts most governments to shame. We had a great conversation about how to incorporate the environment into your classroom that doesn't just involve doing the unit on the environment, which is what I think most of us usually do. There was a tendency for us to digress, but do you know what? I had such fun chatting with him. I really hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed making it. So, without further ado, here's my chat with the wonderful Harry Waters. Hi, this is Erin, and welcome to Everything EFL, my little podcast about English language teaching and other teachy stuff too. Credit and honourable mentions will be given during the episode or in the show notes. Let's crack on. Harry Waters, welcome to Everything EFL. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your career thus far?
Oh, okay. So I'll go specifically with my ELT career, obviously. It started on April the 17th, 2007.
Wow, that's very exact.
I can remember my first class very well. I actually talked about bridges, which is one of my passions. But it started in Argentina, and then I lived in Brazil, then China, then Vietnam, then Australia, before coming to Spain, where I was kind of forced to stay here for health issues, which at first seemed terrible because I was in the middle of, gallivanting, but actually ended up being a blessing in disguise. The silver lining of the cloud was that I got to stay here, and I met my wife in the first academy I worked in Seville, and then from there I started teacher training. I did a lot of teacher training there. I became the ADOS. I jumped around academies, teacher training here and there, and going to conferences and so on and so forth. Then I went to teach in a school, which I thought was the dream. At the time of working in academies and finishing late and coming home to my family, it wasn't the dream. It wasn't a nightmare either. But from there, I went to work as an ELT consultant for Pearson. And at the end of my contract with them, I started Renewable English, which is my climate change awareness course, which we'll talk about more briefly. And yeah, throughout that whole kind of, since I came to Spain in 2011, since I really settled here, that's when my real passion for teacher training kind of came to the fore. Because when I found out that I was stuck here indefinitely, I realized that teaching was something I really liked doing, but not just teaching students, teaching teachers as well. I really got a kick from the first sessions that I was doing and going to conferences and stuff like that. I really enjoyed it, and the feedback that I got from it. And I found out that I was quite good at it. So I thought, you know what? I'll stick with that one.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to be said for gallivanting, I have to say. Everyone should have a little a spell of gallivanting in their lives, most definitely. I totally agree with you with the teacher training. My experience has been kind of a little bit minimal so far, but I get a massive kick out of it as well. I love the fact you've got a group of motivated people who want to better themselves, better their careers. And when you see them responding to you, it's amazing, isn't it? It's like, okay, you have your class and it's lovely when the light switch goes on and everything with your students, but I do think it is something very special when you can connect with fellow teachers.
It really is. It's that thing that you mentioned as well. It's the motivation behind it. Teachers are there at teacher training because they want to be there, whereas students tend to be there because they have to be there. Students tend to need English for something, whereas when you're doing teacher training sessions, teachers want something more. They want more practical activities for the classroom. So yeah, like you say, I really enjoy, connecting with other teachers on that, and the feedback, and yeah, I love it.
Yeah, motivation is everything. I mean, I would be useless in a dangerous minds kind of situation with a group of kids who didn't want to learn. I'd just be like, okay, right, okay, we'll see you later then. Okay, so what got you so interested in sustainability and the environment? Because that seems to be your other passion.
It really is. It really is. There's a few like key incidents that happened. Really, I mean, my parents were really good throughout my childhood, and that they were very aware of, at the time, the greenhouse effect and stuff like that.
Oh,
Which
remember that in the late 80s? Yeah.
so my parents were always very aware of that. So I knew about it. But then when I did get sick, it was a real wake up moment for me, not just about the environment, but about everything in my life. I realized I should probably treat people better and be a bit less selfish, be a kinder person, but also take much better care of the planet. Then my daughter was born, and it was like another kind of kick up the backside, saying, that you need to make a better planet for her. And I then realized that as an ELT teacher, you're in a unique position that you're teaching something that is absolutely global. It's probably the only truly global subject. I mean, maths is global, yes, but it can be taught in any which way. There are so many different methods, but ELT is everywhere. And I saw that the massive reach that it had, especially when I went to teach in a school, which at the time was not particularly environmentally friendly. In fact, I was called Captain Planet by the teachers there, because I would openly attack people for using 7 or 8 plastic cups a day. And it was there that I discovered this passion that could be ignited in the students. And I could show them the power of collective action. And there we kind of, we fought for recycling bins in the classrooms and in the playgrounds, and a healthy breakfast. So students were encouraged not to bring in processed junk food for their breakfast, but, bring in fruit and stuff that isn't wrapped in plastic. And we had litter picks around the school. So it really kind of lit a fire inside me, seeing what you could do, the collective action, the differences you could make with that. And it just led me down this path. And then, I think the inception of ELT Footprint a couple of years back was another big kick, seeing that there were so many other people in the industry that were interested in sustainability and the environment. It was just like, that's absolutely right. I need to be doing more. So when I finally got the time, I got Renewable English off the ground, which was at the end of last year. I think actually I completely neglected to mention something that really did annoy me massively about it. And it was another part of when I was an ELT consultant as well, was the lack of environment stuff within textbooks. You always, I've got hundreds of textbooks behind me that I could flick through, and in each one I could find one unit about climate change.
Yeah, and it's usually in an IELTS book.
Exactly, and it's almost always doom and gloom.
It's not inspiring
exactly, and
to make a change.
And you see that in your students. I remember an FCE class, probably back in 2014, the question came up in one of the mock exams, about the environment, and they just all went, "Oh, the environment."
Yeah,
oh.
I feel the same as a teacher when I have to, do the topic,
because it's not properly approached. I don't think it is doom and gloom, and it is, melty ice caps,
pollution,
all the trees are disappearing, everything's awful, and we're all going to die.
Yeah, it kind of talks about what are the problems and what are the solutions, and that's about it, really. Yeah, but I think you're right. As teachers, the influence that we can actually have over our students it's immense, and I think it's often underestimated, like in the ELT world. I mean, if you think of teachers in what I like to call actual schools, mainstream schools, they, there's a lot in their sort of practice and their training. And if you look at any Instagram, like mainstream teachers, there's a lot of stuff and a lot of materials about, creating your little ones to be better people and stuff like that. And there doesn't really seem to be that much in ELT. Like there's a bit of critical thinking, but not really much else. And, there is so much scope there for making them better people, for opening their minds, for building their confidence. And I think that's really untapped in a lot of ELT classrooms. And it really makes me sad when you get the teacher who's been doing the job for X amount of years. They come in, they use the book, they make some photocopies and off they go. And that's their lesson. And I'm like, yeah, but what are you teaching them?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's one of my colleagues at Pearson and BBC Live classes, Vanessa, she's hugely into mindfulness. And it's something that's, I think, is absolutely imperative in the classroom, especially with the amount of stress that kids are under with exams and stuff like that. And to bring it in at like a young learner time is vital. And I find it's been really helpful for me as well, watching what she's been putting out there. And it's been so helpful for me going freelance and taking everything on myself. I've really needed to be mindful and learn about those, self-care and stuff like that. So like you say, it's just forgotten with a lot of teachers, and you do forget, as you mentioned, the power that you have. I love flags. It's one of my weird things that I love.
Flags and bridges.
Flags and bridges,
in a pub quiz.
I am actually really good at pub quizzes, strangely enough. But yeah, that was something that I think that made me realize the power of being a teacher, that I would have a flag of the week. And it's not something that you would traditionally put down as being something that kids and maybe teenagers would be into. But by the end of the year, all of these kids were talking about the different flags and comparing different flags and stuff like that. And you just see that something as, benign as a flag, and they see it and suddenly you've ignited this passion within them because of the passion that you have for it. Absolutely. And it all comes from there, right? If you don't care about something, they're not going to care.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And it shows in the feedback that you get as well at the end of the year or whatever, like when you get comments like, she's passionate about her job or things like that, it really, you're like, yeah, I am. And it comes through, and that's amazing. So you talked a little bit about course books. Are there any sort of solutions that you suggest? Like, so if a teacher opens up the course book and it's, a couple of pages on pollution or disappearing animals or whatever, what do you suggest teachers can do with that?
My main suggestion is, and the first series of Renewable English was all about this, was kind of forget those units, like those units that are on environment, those units that are on pollution. You'll get to them, you'll do them, but don't make that be your focus for sustainability in the classroom. Pick and choose like the other units. When you're doing fashion, for example, look at the impact that fashion has and kind of weave that into your class instead. So rather than students just learning jeans, t-shirt, I went to the shops and bought this, have a look at the impact that the jeans and the t-shirt have, the amount of water that they use. It does take a bit of research. But there are lots of places you can find, these interesting facts and figures.
You're not short of resources to find that information, are you? And YouTube, stuff like that. There's always something there.
Exactly. Because there are so many people that are, I don't want to say into sustainability because it feels wrong to say that, but there are so many people that are focused on sustainability, that are focused on environmentalism. There are so many materials out there. It can be overwhelming. I mean, I know when I'm putting Renewable English together, I have a section called Unfun Facts, where Unfun Frank comes in and he tells everybody all the horrible things that are happening. It's definitely not me with a different hat on.
He sounds like a Roald Dahl character.
Yeah, he is a bit. But to find those unfun facts, it does take a while because you can't just go to one website and take that. You have to, find the correct sources and this, that, and the other. So I often go to, I look at Nat Geo and I try and find as many different research papers as I can. When I was doing the fashion section, for example, I spoke to Sustainable Fashion Matters, and their website has a facts page with all of the all of the references on there, with all of the sources on there. So you have to watch out for fake news. But if you're trying to encourage like environmentalism and students to be eco-friendly, you are going to need to have some facts and figures, but you're also going to need to give them ideas on how to get around it. So rather than just saying jeans are awful, you could say, why don't you take an old pair of your jeans and, I don't know, stitch something onto them or cut a hole in them? Or if you've got a t-shirt that you don't wear anymore, dye it, or get your felt pens out and draw something on it. Make it unique, make it different. Don't just chuck it in the bin. Because there is this myth with fashion that because fast fashion is so cheap, it's terrible quality. Well, I've got a t-shirt that I bought 12 years ago in Australia and it's still white. So it can't be that bad quality.
Oh, it's like talking to a mirror. Do you have any fun activities for making jeans larger that used to fit me pre-pandemic and don't fit me now?
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
It's a tough one.
Can you leave the top button undone is what I tend to do with mine now.
Yeah, it's pretty much
put
the
a big
only
belt
way.
on top and leave the top button undone.
I'll try that. Thank you. Yeah. Do you like secondhand shops and thrift stores?
I am mad for secondhand shops and thrift stores.
Me too.
Yeah, you can see I'm wearing a bit of a fancy shirt right now. This was from a secondhand shop. I don't know why anyone would give it away, but I'm glad they did. And in fact, all of my shirts now are from either secondhand shops or from secondhand websites or apps.
Brilliant.
Because in Spain, there's not a huge amount of charity shops, which is a bit annoying.
That's a shame. They're massive over here in Ireland and in England as well. And the first thing I do when I go home to my mum and dad's house in the south of England is go straight to the little town centre, because there's like 5 or 6 charity shops, and I go straight into the Chazzers. Yeah, I mean, actually in my studio, which doubles as my closet, and I'm looking at my clothes and I can see at least 3 items of clothing that are from thrift shops, and 2 of them are leopard print. How does that happen?
Winner. Who would give away leopard print things? I just don't understand.
You know what I mean?
I don't go back to the UK very often, but I went back for my brother's wedding a few years back, and it was in Ealing, and I got into Euston Station, and it was about it was a good long walk, but I had a long time to get to the hotel. My family weren't getting there till later, so I just walked the whole way. And just walking along the high streets in London, I just went into every single charity shop along the way. It was just brilliant.
Yeah, they're just the best. You never know what you're going to get. And I always go straight to what I call the shelves of tut, like, just the crap on the shelves. I love looking at the shelves of tut. That's the place I gravitate towards. And then if I have the energy, I'll kind of flick through the clothes and the shoes and stuff and the books, obviously.
And the books is my weakness. As I say, I went back for my brother's wedding, and so I bought my entire wedding outfit along the road. I got a new shirt, I got a new bow tie, I got new braces. Obviously they were old, but I absolutely filled. Yeah, exactly. I filled my suitcase with cookbooks, which I think they're in my downstairs bookshelf. But yeah, there were all these different vegan cookbooks, because it was at the start of when I was trying to go vegan.
Oh, are you a failed vegan too?
I'm a almost vegan. I'm a very nearly vegan.
Yeah, I call myself a semi-vegan.
Yeah. I eat eggs basically. I can't give up eggs, and I'm really lucky because there's a man. If you look out my front window, you can see a farm. Oh, there's a man there who has the eggs. So he delivers them to my door. They're fresh eggs. They're free range. I know the chickens are happy. So I've kind of paid off with my own morals and everything. I've kind of said to myself, that's okay. Yeah, that's okay.
I completely understand. I get my eggs from the local farm as well, just like a mile down the road. And do you know what it was that made me fail? It was bloody goat's cheese. I did it for almost a year, and it was the bloody goat's cheese that got me. But Ireland is quite small, so I kind of, although I haven't really done my research, I kind of say to myself, okay, the dairy production here is much on a much smaller scale. And so, you know, but it's the only way I can really sort of eat it without getting guilty. But yeah, we try, we do the best we can.
Exactly. That was it. We don't need thousands of perfect environmentalists. We need millions of imperfect environmentalists.
Yeah, just little things like if you can change little things, then I think, like, you know, shopping in a charity shop or cutting down on your dairy or something like that. That's perfect. Anyway,
Well,
I
was going to say my wife's lactose intolerant, so that was, for me, that was a great start. So, you know, when we found out she was lactose intolerant, it was like, bye all of that. So anyway,
wasn't too easy.
Anyway, I digress.
Yes, we digress. Let's get back to the issue at hand. My next question, let's talk about low levels, because a lot of the stuff that you've talked about, I think, you know, a lot of teachers might automatically go, okay, but the stuff you're talking about sounds a little bit high level. What about my elementaries and my pre-intermediates? What kind of stuff can I do with them?
But there's all sorts of things you can do with them. And it is, you know, you can talk about food, for example, the food unit, you can talk about it, and you don't need to use huge numbers and statistics in this case. I mentioned earlier that I have a kids class of 7-year-olds, and I was trying to introduce to them the impact of, you know, of meat, and that they don't need to eat it every day. And it was that simple step of just saying, you don't need to eat it every day. Why don't you ask your parents if you don't, so you don't eat it every day? So that kind of thing as a start is really nice. Just simply showing them that. But then there are loads of charts. It's really good. Now, the one I got from Daniel Barber was CO2 levels. And you can go and you can find out CO2 levels, and you can just put that up on the wall and you can look at the CO2 levels for that day.
Comparatives.
Exactly. There you go. And you can say, is it higher or lower than the last class? You can shoehorn almost any grammar into the environmental ELT world. Vocabulary, not as much. Yes, you can focus each unit of your book on sustainability. And one of the things I dream of is that the course book, instead of having a culture unit at the end of every unit, has a sustainability unit at the end. You know, there's always that CLIL section at the end where, you know, they talk about celebrations in Ireland, and you look at St. Patrick's Day, which is nice, it's interesting, but seems like it's in every single course book throughout the years. If they could like change that CLIL part to being about sustainability, that way you can use the vocabulary again. But yeah, other low-level activities, again, describing pictures. So you can get a picture of a factory, you can describe the picture, and it just makes students aware of it. And you can get them to talk about their habits around the house. One thing I did with I have a hybrid class of teens, which is interesting. Definitely not challenging, but they don't have the highest level in the world. And we did just simply talk about what they do around their house and what the environmental impact might be. And, you know, so what do you do when you get home? You know, I watch television. Okay, very good. When you finish watching television, what do? I turn off the television. Do you turn it off or do you put it on standby? So it's working that kind of thing in. And I do a session called Renewable English on the Road, which is a workshop that goes into schools, and we try and assess our own kind of carbon footprint. And then we look at our use of plastics. I think those are the two things that are the easiest to look at yourself and assess and have like look at your own impact, particularly with plastics. Because it was just a simple question of how many of us have a plastic water bottle? I mean, I live in the south of Spain. You can see me on the video here. Listeners obviously can't. I'm very sweaty at the moment because it's quite warm. Oh, thanks.
The shirt you've bought is just soaking it up nicely, you know?
Exactly. Quality fibers. But yeah, you can show people the simple things that they do. And with younger learners, I mean, I think with everybody really, encouraging litter picks and stuff like that, and just suggesting things they can do outside of the classroom. So it isn't just something they're thinking of while they're there. I've got a good friend, Jesse Swede, and he always talks about thinking in English. So this idea of suggesting someone goes on a litter pick, it's something you can then say, right, and when you pick it up, think of what it is in English. You know, so for any level they can see it, it's a bottle. And if they don't know what it is in English, that's a great chance for them to use Google Lens if they have Google Lens and find out what it is, find the translation on their phone, or write down what it is and come to you in class and say, teacher, what is this? It's a bottle.
That's amazing for like context learning as well. They're so much more likely to remember it. If they can find the word in that situation, they're so much more likely to remember it. Yeah, that's brilliant. And like the stuff with pictures, it's all authentic materials as well, which is great. Episode 52, guys, if you want to check out my episode there on authentic materials. And the stuff like with the habits for the house, you know, you could turn that into a questionnaire or a survey that the students can conduct with each other, make little reports or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot you can do there. Love it.
Exactly. And yeah, you can chuck in stuff like, you know, that's a great place to put in words like whereas, which they're going to need for their exam comparatives. You know, Pepe doesn't switch off the lights, whereas Pedro does. You know, simple things like that you can bring into the lower levels. That the more complex language you can bring into those lower levels, the better, in my opinion. I'm very much of the demand high kind of approach where try for more. If it pays off, it pays off. If it doesn't, you know, you can still go in with less.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was actually a conversation I was having on LinkedIn this week. Like, you know, when do you introduce slightly higher level language if you think it's useful? And a lot of the times, you know, if you can introduce little phrases that they don't necessarily know grammar wise, as long as they can understand the meaning of it, brilliant. Why not? If they're going to use it, they're going to, you know, I think you should try and introduce that and go for a slightly more lexical approach rather than just separating everything out.
Absolutely. I love chunking. I'm a huge fan of chunks. Oh. Chunks are so good.
Do you know, when I was an ADOS in England, I tried to write inspirational quotes on the whiteboard for the teachers to come in. And my first one was, do not underestimate the power of the lexical chunk.
There you go.
You're welcome, you know?
Exactly. I've got my 7-year-olds, they, you know, they're talking about, we play Would You Rather. Oh. You know, they're 7 and they're like, you know, would you rather this? And you can work on the pronunciation then as well.
Yeah, would you?
Not exactly the most difficult thing in the world, you know, would you rather have 4 arms or would you rather have 4 legs? But, you know, there are 7-year-olds that are producing this kind of difficult language and then they're saying, I'd rather have 4 legs. So they don't know the grammatical structure of it. They don't know why. They just know that there are some really fun YouTube videos they can watch and go home and watch with their parents. Say, look, this is what we're learning in English class today. I would rather have $1 million than, I don't know, 4 legs. They're those kind of things that it really amazed me, and you know, real language with them as well. I don't know if it's the same in other countries, but I know that the answer to "How are you? I'm fine" makes my skin crawl. So the thing that we say in England is, "I'm all right." You know, I'm all right. It's not something that's in many textbooks, but if you ask someone in England, how are they? They're going to tell you, I'm all right, no matter how they are, especially if they're English.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from the south of England, and my greeting is, "You're all right." That's my greeting.
Exactly. And it's something that doesn't come in textbooks, but when you hear, you know, a 7-year-old Spanish kid who lives in a village of 7,000 people, you're like, yeah, how you doing, Candela? I'm all right.
Oh,
it's like, that's wonderful. That's what I like to hear.
Just makes your heart melt, doesn't it?
It really does.
So where do you, okay, is there a line, or where do you draw the line between kind of trying to educate your students and being preachy? Like, how was it at the beginning when you first started doing this?
It's tough. It really is tough. And it is all about encouragement. And education is the most powerful tool for change, as Nelson Mandela said. So it is about educating and not just preaching and not just saying what you're doing is bad. But the way I frame it now is, what do you think you could do that's better?
Yeah.
What do you think, what areas do you think you could change? Like, here are loads of things that you can do. Which of those do you think you might be able to do? I'm not saying what you do is wrong. I would never go up to a meat eater and say, that beef is destroying the planet, because that's not going to help anybody. Nobody's going to say, oh, is it? Oh, darn it.
Tastes delicious though.
Yeah. Darn, this beef's destroying the planet. Do you know what? I'll send it back and I'll never go back to this restaurant. It's not going to work. You're only going to get people's backs up. So
yeah,
I think when it comes to climate change, especially, we do need to educate. It's really important to educate, and individual action is important. And it does make you feel great when you're doing something good for the planet. Like you say, when you go and buy something secondhand, it makes you feel good. It releases the dopamine. You feel like you've done something good. I think it should be celebrated. People often talk about normalizing these things. They should be normalized, but they should also be celebrated. So if a student comes to my class with a reusable bottle, I celebrate it.
Yeah, what's not to celebrate about getting a leopard print knit for €3?
Exactly. I mean, I'm jealous. I'm sitting here and I'm jealous. I want that leopard print knit. Maybe not for now, but for the winter.
On Friday nights.
Exactly. So yeah, it was more about kind of it. What I like to say is giving students and teachers the tools to raise climate change awareness.
Brilliant.
I'd like people to be aware of it. I like people to know and see what they can do on an individual basis, but also then on a collective basis.
There's so many things students can get from this as well. Like when you were saying about, what could you do? Here's a list of things, pick one. Choice, giving students choice is so important in any way you possibly can in a classroom environment. There's room for critical thinking there. There's just room for personal growth. Like there's so much to it. Do you want to talk a little bit more about Renewable English and ELT Footprint?
Sure. Well, ELT Footprint is a group on Facebook that I'm a member of. They have inspired me so much. There's so much. I mean, I know that most ELT teachers tend to be kind of more lefty, Guardian reading. I don't want to say open-minded, but open-minded.
We're well-travelled, generally well-educated, and open-minded. Yeah,
exactly. So there's a lot of like-minded people in there, and for me, it was a source of inspiration. And I know for a lot of other people in the group, it's a source of inspiration. And from there, I mean, so back in September, when I became freelance and started working on Renewable English, it didn't even have a name. So I put 3 different options in the group and I asked them to vote on it. So I literally have ELT Footprint to thank for the name of Renewable English. So I'm super grateful for that. And yet all the support that they give to other teachers across the globe with it. And Renewable English itself was born from, I think, the first series especially was born from my frustration with course books. And the fact that there wasn't enough there for teachers to supplement their classes. When, you talk about the home, you do all the houses, you do all the rooms, you do the appliances, you do this, you do that. But you don't look at the fact that a kettle uses an awful lot of electricity. And that, if you're having a cup of tea, then maybe you should only boil enough for the cup. You don't need to boil the whole kettle because that uses so much electricity. And ironing is the worst thing in the world. Not only is it a huge waste of time, it is awful. Who irons? I mean, who likes it? It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
No, I just shake everything out.
Yeah.
Don't need to
Just
iron.
sweat out, just sweat the creases out. It's fine.
It's pointless. It's like drying up, you know. They're both pointless activities. Just leave
Exactly.
it.
Just leave it. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of electricity. So yeah, I've gone slightly off on a tangent there, unsurprisingly.
Okay, let me bring you back. Let me bring you back.
Back to Renewable English.
Yeah, what can teachers find on Renewable English if they go on?
So Renewable English, we have. It's a free online climate change awareness course where we have live lessons every Thursday, which are then recorded, and they have a worksheet to go with them on the website. And there's also the kind of separate parts to the lesson are uploaded to the website as well. So a lesson basically starts with a quote. We talk about the quote and what that means. Then we move on to some unfun facts, whereas basically the only negative part of the lesson, we look at the negative effects, the negative impact. Then we have an expert interview, but in the lesson it's cut down to 2 or 3 minutes. So on the website you can find the full interview, you know, which they're with experts. So, you know, they know an awful lot more than I do, and they've taught me an awful lot as well. And then there's probably most people's favorite part, and it is this thing about choice, is the Ali's top tips. And my daughter is a budding environmentalist. It's something that makes me super happy. And she gives top tips. She gives 5 top tips every week for the given subject. So we're up to lesson 11 is on Thursday, which is all about schools, which is also going to have an extra little video in there because I'm very passionate about environmentalism in schools, not only the physical things they can do, but also what teachers can give to students. I mean, it's the whole point of Renewable English. The last episode in the series, I guess, the last lesson in the series is all about celebrations, and we're going to have a sustainable celebration, after which I'm going to shave my head live on air to raise money for Kids Against Plastic.
Wow, you really know how to amp up the drama, don't you?
Yeah, well, it's something that, you know, I don't have much dignity left, and I also don't have much hair left.
40, you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking, you know, between dignity, my hair is reducing, but as my comb over gets more and more embarrassing, it's removing any shred of dignity I had. So I thought I'll try and go out and do something useful with it. So I'm doing a fundraiser to try and, you know, raise a bit of money for Kids Against Plastic, because they are helping empower the youth environmentalist movement. They're making loads of positive changes. So yeah, I thought I'd try and do something good with, you know, this impending baldness.
Fabulous. Own it.
Not shaving my beard though, unless we raise loads of money, in which case I was shaving a handlebar, because I think that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, very nice indeed.
I'm not sure my wife would agree.
Just keep it for one day for the comedy factor, and then get rid of it. You can always grow it back, you know. That's the beauty of facial hair.
It is.
Mine seems to keep coming back no matter how much I pluck it. Where can people find you online and on social media?
Well, they can find me everywhere. I'm all over the medias. I am predominantly on Instagram. That is where I have my largest following, I guess. And that's where all of the materials go onto at Renewable English on Instagram. They then go directly to the group on Facebook, which is cleverly at Renewable English.
See what you're doing there.
It's clever, that.
Yeah.
The website is www.renewableenglish.com. And from there, yeah, you can find links to the live stream, which is on YouTube. The YouTube channel, it's a difficult one. It's Renewable English.
You know, I had a feeling you were going to say that.
It's clever, that.
Yeah. Harry Walters, thank you so much. This has been very informative, very, very interesting. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. Anything that you have mentioned will go on the episode show notes, guys. So don't worry if you didn't catch all the references. Thank you once again.
No, thank you. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. This podcast is free and always will be, so if you feel like giving something back, you can do one of the following. You can subscribe to the podcast on your preferred platform. Spare a few minutes and write me a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Follow Everything EFL on Instagram, Facebook or Twitter and engage with me and my followers. If you would like to contact me, my email is in the show notes. Finally, and most importantly, share this episode on social media and tell your colleagues. Share the love. Bye.